January of my freshman year. I kind of just went to catch a ball, came down, heard the crack, and was able to figure out pretty fast that it happened. The lower end of my leg where it connects to the ankle, there was a clean break. I like to say that I actually think I got faster after my surgery than I was before. Yeah, I'm Jake Wilson. I'm a sophomore lacrosse player at Loyola University. I'm from Darien, Connecticut. I come from a family of athletes. Both my parents were college athletes. A lot of my brothers played football and lacrosse mainly from a young age. Throughout high school, I stuck to football and lacrosse and was lucky enough to have the chance to play lacrosse in college. My freshman year, I fractured my fibula playing football. I kind of understood that the only way that I could kind of come back to it 100% would be to kind of partake in some sort of physical therapy. I think physical therapy first kind of gave me the ability to come back from the injury in honestly a better position than I was prior to it. I like to joke that I came back faster and more agile after my surgery than I was before, kind of because of the nature of the workouts we were doing, explosive drills, cone drills, stuff like that, which kind of honestly gave me a fundamental base for the next few years that I could use to get faster, even if it wasn't for PT, it was just in general. In the summer circuit through like club lacrosse, that's kind of when you start to see, college coaches on the sidelines, you start to get some emails, draw some interest from, different programs. It kind of started to pick up right during my junior lacrosse season. I'm glad I made the decision that I did. I'm a defenseman, so obviously, the physicality picks up when you get to college, older guys, bigger guys. But in terms of speed of the game, everything's just going faster. You got to make decisions a second or second and a half faster than you had to in high school, which can kind of be all the difference between, you getting beat or your defense getting beat. It was kind of just adjusting to that speed as fast as possible and kind of just preparing yourself for that. And I think the biggest piece of advice is just, you should have expectations of yourself, but don't burden yourself with those expectations. Just understand that plans will change and that, as long as you stay positive, it typically always works itself out.